Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 6 for 6. It's been a hot minute since we have done a glorious episode here, ladies and gentlemen. It is College Football Conference Championship weekend. We got 6 conference championships games today. We're going to pick the winners of each game today. A lot of big stuff. The first games get kicked off at noon, so we got 2 minutes to knock out those picks. But without further ado, let's do a quick recap of Season 3. Season 3 is about to come to a close. Season 4, we're going to be in full swing next year. A lot of games, a lot of picks with some of the college football playoffs in the mix of it. So we got a really good 2025 coming up for 6 for 6, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the long hiatus. Very busy as of late. But we got to remind our fans what our record is on Glorious 6 for 6. So our 2024 record is 36-27-1. Beautiful record. Great way to wrap up 2024. Looking phenomenal across the board in the wins column. Last episode was when we had our first ever guest with Isaiah Leung, and our record for that, for what we picked correct, was 4-2. Isaiah's record, ladies and gentlemen, was 2-4 on our last episode of episode 21 of season 3. So great selection for us. We did really well. We beat our guests, which was fantastic. We're going to have more guests on in 2025 to get their insights and their opinions, but for those college football playoff games around the new year, but that's going to cap off around like season 3, might swing into season 4, depending how I want to work that in and fill that time appropriately, ladies and gentlemen. But also our season 3 record is tremendous. 62 correct picks, 46 incorrect picks, and 3 ties. So we are done fantastic in season 3 of 6 for 6. Can't ask for much more. But without further ado, we got to get the 2 games out the way. So the games that are happening at noon, I would say, are your Big 12 championship game and your MAC championship game. So we're going to knock those out. So it's going to be a little out of order since those games literally start in 1 minute from now. So we'll start off with the Big 12 championship game because this is a playoff implication of either Iowa State gets in or Arizona State gets in. Very key and critical matchup to define who gets the 12th seed in the college football playoffs. Very momentum that's going to drive this indication. So with this matchup, ladies and gentlemen, Iowa State has a 55% chance of winning compared to Arizona State's 45% chance of victory. We like Iowa State in this scenario. Both 10-2, fantastic years for both programs. But the thing that we're looking at the most, ladies and gentlemen, that eye test game that they have played similar opponents that are relatively close to each other in the most weeks span in the last 5 games is Kansas State. So Iowa State beat Kansas State 24-14. Good, solid 2-possession victory. But if we look at Iowa State when they played, it was 29-21. If we're looking at offensive powerhouses right there, that huge momentum, ladies and gentlemen, Arizona State has that high-powered offense to go up and score. If you look at the last, 5 games with Arizona State, they're floating around, 20s, close to, low 30s in that matchup. So it's going to be one of those games where possessions win, how you manage the clock, and that's how you're going to get a victor in this scenario. So I definitely like Iowa State in this one to slip into the college football playoffs as that 12th seed. But we got to figure out what the committee values and how they shift teams around after conference championship weekend. But I like Iowa State in this matchup. But we also have in the noon slot as well, ladies and gentlemen, we have Ohio versus Miami of Ohio, the MAC championship game that's just kicked off literally moments ago. Key matchup in the MAC conference championship. We got Ohio being 9-3, Miami of Ohio 8-4. Not much here, but just playing a good game to get a nice bowl game out of it, winning your conference, having that 10-win season of what these teams are looking for. Miami of Ohio, get that dub, being 9-4, and then win your bowl game 10-4. Good season to wrap up the year. But Ohio University is looking out to be, 11-3. Great way to wrap up the season as well. But if you look at the matchup, Miami of Ohio has a 55% chance of victory compared to Ohio's chance of victory of 44.9% chance of victory. looking at that, we got two pivotal matchups where we can look at the eye test to see why I am picking Ohio to win in this matchup. If you see the Kent State game, relatively same if you look at possessions and points scored. Miami of Ohio beat Kent State 34-7, where Ohio beat them 41-0. Very perfect in this scenario. Shutouts for Ohio. Defense was solid in this one. But if you look at the Ball State matchup, this is where I'm going to give the edge to Ohio. And this is the very reason. If you look at Miami of Ohio, when they played Ball State, it was 27-21, beat them by a possession. But if you look at when Ohio played Ball State, it was 42-21. Key pivotal matchup, double-digit victory for Ohio. That's why I like them in this matchup going in the conference championship weekend. I don't see like how the matchup predictor has it for ESPN. That's robbery in itself on how they have Ohio just not doing. You have the last week of the game when they went up, dropped 42 against Ball State, when you can see literally about beginning of the month of November. Yes, you can argue two different teams and all that stuff. Very going to be, it's a different team 3 weeks from now. Yes, you have that argument. But at the same time, it happened within the same month. So I don't think there's going to be too much of a drastic change. But that's how I have it. I like Ohio in this one. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a few comments in there. John Alcoran, thanks for watching in, man. It's going to be interesting. And yes, John, we have boo for going to be a tie right now. Those were because we had MLS games in there, and that's how we got ties. So that's the only reason why ties exist on 6 for 6. You can count those as losses because they're incorrect, but at the same time, we didn't lose and we didn't win. So that's why we have to have a tie. But as we can see, we kind of knocked out those games. But all the games later on, we'll get back into the grind of the remaining 4. We'll go back to our 6th slot. We got Marshall versus Louisiana. Sun Bowl Championship game, 7:30 p.m. kickoff, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. Just a classic matchup late at night. Just get underway. Marshall, Louisiana. Louisiana has a great matchup right there, ladies and gentlemen. 10-2, great year. Marshall 9-3. If we're looking at some of the key matchups that they have something similar, I don't think within the last 5 that is going to sway me one way or another. But I like the overtime win against James Madison for Marshall to just show that they can play against JMU. That has been having a good year for the last 2 years. We love to see that for them. Great all the way around. Great predictions. I'm just going to go with Marshall in this one. Get that easy dub. Take care. Get that 10 win right there, part of their season. So that's going to be very nice for them. Next up, we got the ACC championship game. The spoilers of Clemson versus SMU. ACC championship game. Battling it out for your playoff spot. Now, this shakes things up. If Clemson wins, they now go in as a 12 seed, and the Big 12 jumps up as a 4th seed, and Boise State will become a 3rd seed, which is insane on how we want to say that, but that's very possible if Clemson pulls up the upset here tonight. It's not going to be an easy task. Clemson's 9-3, SMU's 11-1. You got a beautiful matchup right here and there. You can't get much better than that. With that, if you're looking at some of the key matchups that they have similar, it's the Pitt game in this scenario where SMU beat Pitt 48-25. Beautiful matchup across the board. Solid victory for SMU. Clemson, on the other hand, 24-20. Their offense is just not clicking. It's a very low scoring game for Clemson. And when they play against teams in the Power 4, they're barely cracking 24 points. So all SMU has to do is get over 20 points, over 24 points, and they win this ball game. That's how I see. Easy said than done. That's why I like SMU in this game, where they have the offense to drive up and down the field, create that momentum, and keep pushing the ball down the field. That's why I like SMU in this matchup. Give me SMU to win the ACC championship game. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have the 2 pivotal games that are the most interesting. that can shake up the college football landscape. We're going to go in the number 2 slot, ladies and gentlemen. The Big Ten Championship, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time on CBS. Penn State, number 3, rolling in after Ohio State lost in the game. Very disappointed as a Buckeyes fan. Well, we can talk about that all day, every day. Ohio State is at the mercy of the committee, how all these teams shake out at conference championship weekend. Now, Penn State, ladies and gentlemen, yes, they are 11-1. You can say, oh, they're number 3. They lost to Ohio State by 7. But keep in mind, of the Ohio State-Penn State game, their only touchdown came off of a pick 6 from Ohio State. All they got us for their other points was field goals. Ohio State lost to Oregon by 1. Oregon's defense, it's not the greatest, but it can make key stops when they need it. Penn State defense, on the other hand, will make those key stops and create turnovers. However, Oregon's offense, in my opinion, is better all the way around. They can go up and down and score against Ohio State. Ohio State has one of those defenses that will create key turnovers. However, Penn State's offense just can't get going against tough-ranked opponents. Look at the game of Wisconsin, 16-13. That's my key example. No, that's what it was for Oregon. But if you're looking at some of their other games for Penn State, it's very slow, like Minnesota, 26-25. Very slow, very sluggish. Penn State's one of those teams where, like, if you let them hang around, it's a problem. Now, granted that they have their, ranked matchup going in there in this matchup to win, the Big Ten title since they won in 2016. It's a journey for them, ladies and gentlemen. A long journey to get back to being in the college football playoffs. They haven't done it. They got gypped out, how you want to view it, when they got left out. Ohio State went in. We have that. Now they're in. So what does that mean? We've all heard the statements where they were saying they're the best 10-2 team in the country. Now, if you expand the playoffs, they're in it every year. Now we see it. They're 11-1. They didn't have to play Michigan. They had to play Ohio State. They didn't have to play Oregon. That's why it's their only loss is Ohio State. Now, if they had to play Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon in the same year, you're looking at a 9-3 Penn State team some years. Maybe another 10-2 where they beat one of those teams. It's one of those schedules where Penn State is that 10-2 team. This year, they just were fortunate based on how their schedule looks out. But that offense, ladies and gentlemen, I could not stand that Penn State offense. When it plays big opponents, like I said, it struggles to move that ball up and down the field. Their defense bails them out every time. Oregon, on the other hand, will find a way to win. We're looking at the percentage chance of victory. They have Penn State with a 53.5% chance of victory compared to Oregon's 46.5% chance of victory. Insane on how you want to look at that. Insane how you disrespect the number 1 team in the country, and they have beaten everybody to a confession butt whooping. At the beginning of the season, they struggled. They playing teams close. But granted, they were taking care of business. They were winning. They knocked off Ohio State in a thriller or barn burner. Could have gone either way. Beat Ohio State by 1 point. That's all they had to do. Now, Ohio State losing to Michigan, that hurts Oregon's resume a little bit. Ohio State should have been in this conference championship game where you have the rematch where it looks like a quality victory for Oregon for beating them the second time, or you have a nice split hair decision where they meet again in the playoffs and everything else shakes out. But give me Oregon to win this game. Easy said than done. Beautiful finish. Can't get much better than that. So give me Oregon to win this game tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time on CBS. And ladies and gentlemen, the game of the week, conference championship game that will shake a lot of things in the SEC. Who gets in for the SEC for the college football playoffs is Texas, Georgia, SEC championship today at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, this matchup is crucial for how the SEC shakes out in the college football playoffs. Do we get a 2-loss Georgia team running through, get that bye? Or, Texas goes, 12-1. Sorry for the cough, ladies and gentlemen. But This right here is monumental. I know this pick is going to be very, very, very important. I like Texas in this one as a redemption arc. You lost to Georgia badly, and you were at home. But this is where you redeem it. First time in the SEC, beat all your SEC opponents, get that revenge loss out the way. In my opinion, it kind of erases that loss that you lost to them, and you redeem it, and you, in my opinion, you have an undefeated season, even though you still lost in the regular season. But to me, that is a quality revenge victory, which we all support. The last time I said that about Texas, I was looking forward to it. I was going to the Big Ten championship game, going into 2018, all that the hype and the excitement. Was rooting for Texas to get that revenge loss so Ohio State could get in, and they should. And boy, that game was on the edge of my seat. I was rooting for Texas, and Texas couldn't get it done, and that hurt, and that was very upsetting, because then it was like nothing that Ohio State could do can get that job done to get into that playoff picture. Now Texas has a chance to redeem themselves and give themselves a nice bye, so they don't have to go into a Big Ten game on the road in the cold. And we don't want that for Texas. We want them to do well. But it starts with Georgia. You're in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. Basically, it's a home game for Georgia. As you like it, say it or not. Granted, we can debate on where these conference championship games should be played, more at a neutral site. So, like, if Texas and Georgia play, this should be in New Orleans, in my opinion, or down in Florida, to make it equal distance travel. So, like, there's no home field advantage. But at the same time, that home game in Atlanta for Georgia, I don't know what Georgia has to do. They've been to this title game multiple times. They took care of business, or they lose it. But Texas just has that offense. Are we going to get the good Texas at 4 p.m. Eastern? Or are we going to get a Texas team that's going to just not get the job done? They're going to lay over, struggle, not move the ball up and down the field, and look like a terrible Texas team. I don't want that to happen. I want Texas to dominate this football game. They got to be able to get that line penetration and get that ball moving on the ground. Keep Georgia's offense off the field as long as they can and win this game. It doesn't have to be one of those games where you have to beat them by 3 possessions. We know Georgia's defense is there. It's going to be a hard-fought game, but the thing is, you got to win it convincingly. Get the committee to be like saying, well, you dominated number 5, and Oregon was struggling with number 3, Penn State. That's how you got to look at it. You got to show why you are number 1 while Oregon plays another top 5 opponent. Like, this is how the 1 seed is going to – who gets the 1 seed and who plays the 8 and 9 matchup. Like, how you want it, it's like, depending how it shakes out, like, you kind of don't want to play a 2-loss Ohio State team that lost to the rival. Like, that is like a recipe for disaster. So you're trying to play for seeding so you don't get a team that is hungry to create some upsets. You want to have the side of the bracket where it's like, we can control our destiny. We don't have to worry about a team that's on a vengeance campaign. Those are the most teams that are the most deadly. So, like, a 2-loss Ohio State team rolling through the playoffs, dangerous. When you have Clemson slips in, another dangerous team because everyone was doubting them and counting them out. But now you have Texas, or you have a Georgia team that's a 2-loss team that's prowling on the hunt. If Georgia's a 3-loss team, it changes everything. Because they're not going to leave Georgia out. We all know that. But they have a chance to create something special. Granted, this is not going to be an easy task, but give me Texas to win this game on the SEC championship game in Atlanta. So let's do a quick recap, close out, and let you guys enjoy conference championship weekend. So in the 6th slot, ladies and gentlemen, we have Marshall versus Louisiana, Sun Belt Championship, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN. Give me Marshall to win this one. Next up, the MAC championship is underway already, ladies and gentlemen. We have Ohio versus Miami of Ohio, MAC championship game at noon, 9 a.m. Pacific time on ESPN. Give me Ohio to win it. Next up in the 4 slot, ladies and gentlemen, we have Clemson, SMU, ACC championship game, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time on ABC. Give me SMU to win this game. Next up, we got Iowa State, Arizona State, Big 12 championship game, noon Eastern time, which is already underway, 9 a.m. Pacific time on ABC. Give me Iowa State to win this one. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, Penn State, Oregon, Big 10 championship game, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time on ABC. Give me Oregon to win this matchup, ladies and gentlemen, in the Big 10 title game. And last but not least, Texas versus Georgia, SEC championship game, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time on ABC. And give me Texas to win that, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic matchups for the conference championship weekend. But our 2024 record is 36-27-1, with our last episode being 4-2, with an overall season 3 record of 62-46-3. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in, and hope you have a great conference championship weekend. So long for now. Bye-bye.